Hi, you're right. I hope you are well. I'm really looking forward to seeing you all soon. So, our assembly this week is a really important one. It's about equality. Equality means everyone is treated the same, viewed the same, and has the same opportunities, regardless of their age, gender, race, sexuality, or religion. June is Pride Month. It's a month dedicated to celebrating the LGBTQ plus communities all around the world. It's about people coming together in love and in friendship to show how far gay rights have come and to raise awareness for the places where there still is some work to be done. This month is an opportunity to teach about tolerance, to educate in the history of Pride, and to continue to move forward in equality. It's important for people to remember how damaging homophobia was and still can be. Global Pride Day is June 27th, and there are plans for live streams of concerts and showcases to celebrate Pride on all platforms of social media all over the world. So, where did the name Pride come from? The name was taken from a man called L. Craig Schoonmaker, who in 2015 said, "A lot of people were very repressed. They were conflicted internally and didn't know how to come out and be proud. That's how the movement was most useful because they thought, well, maybe I should be proud." So, and you should be proud. You should be proud of all of the reasons we're unique, all of the reasons we are different. They're reasons to celebrate, not to bully each other. So, why June? Well, during the 1960s, being gay was classified as a mental illness in the USA and other countries around the world. Even here in the UK, being gay was a crime until 1967. People of the LGBTQ plus community were regularly threatened and beaten by the police and were shunned by many members of society. On the 29th of June 1969, police raided the Stonewall Inn, a bar in the gay area of New York. It was the second time that week the police had raided it, throwing all the occupants out into the street for no good reason. The gay community were angry about how they were being treated and chose to fight back. This triggered a week of protesting and riots by people of the community who were fed up of being harassed by the authorities. News of the riots spread around the world and inspired others to join in protests and rights groups to fight for equality. A month after the riots, the first openly gay march took place in New York, demanding equality. The UK held its first official Pride Festival in 1972. Around 2,000 people turned up for the event. And it's crazy to think that the very same event last year in London, there were more than a million people there alone. The Stonewall charity was founded in the UK in 1989, named after the bar which sparked the famous riots. It works to fight inequality and homophobia and campaigned to overturn Section 28, which was a law preventing teachers from talking about gay relationships at school in the UK. It only became illegal to encourage homophobic hatred in 2008. Yet the fight for equality was still not over. In 2013, gay marriage finally became legal in England and Wales, and then later in Scotland. However, it is still not allowed in Northern Ireland. The rights of the LGBTQ plus community have come a long way since the riots of Stonewall. However, there is still more to be done in the fight for equality in the UK and around the world. As I'm sure many of you have seen on social media and the news, there are currently riots and protests, once again fighting inequality, but this time over the murder of George Floyd, an African American, after he was stopped by the police. Officers stopped him because they believed he'd been using fake money, which they later found out he had not, and restrained him by kneeling on his neck. Despite saying he couldn't breathe, the officer persisted and George sadly died. The whole event was videoed, and that video has now been shared millions of times around the world, sparking a riot over police brutality and the treatment of black people in society. Protests started in Minneapolis and quickly spread to many of America's big cities. There have now also been demonstrations held in London, Manchester, and other cities around the UK. This is not the first time that police in the US have been accused of being racially motivated or using unnecessary force against black suspects. Banners with Black Lives Matter have been seen in many of the pictures of protests published this week, but that movement actually began in 2013, after a man called George Zimmerman was cleared of murder charges after he shot an African American teenager called Trayvon Martin. Many angry protesters over the treatment of black people by white police officers have happened many times in the last year, trying to call out the inequality of their treatment. African Americans are 5 times more likely to be sent to jail for the same crimes than white Americans. The riots have so far meant that the charges brought against the police officer responsible for killing George have increased, and the other officers involved are now also under investigation. The governor of the state of Minnesota has launched a civil rights investigation into the Minneapolis Police Department, and he has said he's aiming to root out systemic racism that is generations deep. Celebrities in the world of sport have also spoken out about what's happening. Beyonce took to Instagram saying, "We need justice for George Floyd. I'm not only speaking to people of colour. If you're white, black, brown, or anything in between, I'm sure you feel hopeless by the racism going on right now. No more senseless killing of human beings. No more seeing people of colour as being less than human. Many other celebrities, musicians, and members of the public have also tried to raise awareness by pledging to take a break from social media on the 2nd of June using the hashtag Blackout Tuesday to raise awareness for Black Lives Matter and allow their voices to be heard. We are all responsible for the fight for equality. We need to think before we speak. We need to care for one another. We need to support each other. Equality is about working towards everyone in the world having equal rights, regardless of their age, race, gender, or sexuality. I'm going to leave you with the words of Barack Obama speaking at a public event last week. He said, "I want you to know that you matter. I want you to know that your lives matter, that your dreams matter. When I go home and I look at the face of my daughter and I look at my nieces and nephews, I see limitless potential that deserves to flourish and thrive. When sometimes I feel despair, I just see what is happening with young people all across the country, the talent, the voice, the sophistication they are displaying, and it makes me feel optimistic. It makes me feel as if this world is going to get better."